Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All Things Policy. I am Mariam Azimuddin, Assistant Program Manager at Takshashila, and today with me I have Rohan Pai, Assistant Program Manager at Takshashila as well. On today's topic of discussion, we will be exploring the latest controversy surrounding everyone's favorite social media app, TikTok. Well, at least it was everyone's favorite app until it was banned in India in June 2020. And in India, and the Indian ban primarily took place as a show of resistance by the Indian government, given the broader clashes and alleged Chinese threat to Indian security and sovereignty. As of the last week, however, there's a growing risk that the app may suffer the same fate in the United States, which happens to be the country with TikTok's second highest user base after Indonesia. With over 120 million users, Rohan, I'd like to pose this as a question to you. Why do you think this is happening? Is it related to India's ban?
Great. So, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. And you're absolutely right about it being my favorite app because
Exactly.
I can confirm that I was absolutely devastated when I heard about the TikTok ban during the pandemic. So, however, I do think Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and other similar video sharing apps actually have a very similar algorithm to TikTok. So, I
Right.
think they've very effectively filled in the vacuum that TikTok has left behind.
But it did actually help us out in the pandemic. I have made multiple videos
Yeah.
of myself.
I mean, that's debatable whether it helped us or it ruined our brains, but we'll get onto all of that in this podcast. So, but onto your question, I think the answer is no. It is not related to the ban in India whatsoever, because the ban in the United States is actually related to mental health. So last
that's
Tuesday,
interesting.
it's very interesting. Last Tuesday on October 8th, the social media giant TikTok was hit with a spate of lawsuits that were drafted by actually a very powerful bipartisan coalition of 14 lawyers.
Wow.
And the coalition was actually led by the attorney generals of New York and California. And I think these are possibly some of the most influential lawyers in the country. So the reason behind this lawsuit, TikTok was accused of negatively impacting the mental health of specifically its underage users. And
Okay.
the allegations specifically state that the company uses addictive features in its algorithm very intentionally because it hooks children to the app. And in this regard, the lawsuit actually draws attention to specific features in the algorithm, such as curated feeds, which are different for every person based on their interests.
Right.
Maybe some push notifications that keep children up at night and affect their sleep. And also, as we all know, the ever notorious infinite scroll, which keeps refreshing
course.
and showing us new content every
Of
day,
course.
every hour of every day. So that's the addictive part of it. But even beyond the addictive nature of the algorithm, the app has also been found to be a source of physical danger for its
Wait,
underage
how
users.
does that? What makes you say that?
Right. So during the lawsuits, the New York Attorney General, whose name is Letitia James, actually said that many young people have actually died or been injured doing TikTok challenges.
I did come across one of
Yes,
that, and I think a girl fell off the cliff trying to make one.
I haven't heard about that one yet, but that's probably true. The one she cited in the lawsuit, however, was about a 15-year-old boy who actually tried surfing on top of a metro car in Manhattan. And this was found to be the result of another TikTok challenge called subway surfing or something of that
Sounds
sort.
intense.
Yes.
I've come across that game as well.
Yes. People have tried to mimic it in real life, unfortunately, and I don't blame the children themselves because, of course, they are underage and they are very influential. But the app has given them access to a lot of these dangerous challenges. That's one of the physical dangers. The other one, which I'm sure we all know, which has been brought about through Snapchat initially, is beauty filters and
Of course.
face filters, right? So in 2018, actually, there was a plastic surgeon named Dr. Tijuan Esho, who actually coined the term Snapchat dysmorphia because he noticed that a lot of his patients actually brought in photos of themselves using Snapchat filters and asked them to ask the plastic surgeon to make changes to their facial features to mimic these. Usually it's done with celebrities to make them look more like celebrities, but now this is the newer trend of
Seems like
Snapchat
people do
filters.
have some money there.
Yes, that is never a problem. But in light of all of these transgressions, I think the attorneys of this lawsuit have demanded that TikTok, or more specifically the ByteDance app, which owns TikTok, they surrender any profits that it has acquired as a result of advertising, which targets specifically users under the age of 18.
Whoa, now that seems like a quite serious situation. And I would like to return to what you said earlier about TikTok intentionally making its app addictive for users. How exactly does it achieve this now?
Yes, this is actually very important and must be discussed, because we can always argue over whether it should be banned or not, and that's a very nuanced and subjective discussion. But however, peeling back the layers of TikTok's addictive algorithm and understanding its inner workings is very paramount, I think. And to do this, we can employ the Octa Lysis framework of gamification. So this is a framework that posits that there are 8 core drives that make an online game more fun and keep users more engaged.
Okay.
Yeah. And this same framework is often used across services, not just games, because they are very useful as persuasive strategies that can be used to, say, alter the behavior patterns and brain chemistry of their customers.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, here are some examples of the core drives described in the framework. One of them is accomplishment. For example, if you tell a user that they can accomplish a certain number of tasks to receive a badge or a prize or fulfill some criteria to go to the next level, it automatically influences and persuades them to engage with the service more often.
Keeps you hooked.
Keeps you hooked as very well. I mean, this is more in the context of games, of course, as we all know, but I think many restaurants, such as even like many cafes, have started the point system where they say if you buy these many coffees or these
Yeah.
many chais, you'll get a free one.
I've clearly fallen for
Yes.
the H&M thing there. They keep
Yes.
telling me you do this and you get 300
Yes.
bonus points.
I mean, that's I don't blame you. They alter specific parts of human brain chemistry, and you're just human for falling for these things, of course. Another one is scarcity. And of course, if we think about the luxury industry, for example, they always have limited edition products and they add their brand name to many products, which increases the value. So I think human beings are always drawn towards things that they know not everyone is allowed to own.
Right.
Limited edition, rare edition, we all know about this.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I have definitely noticed these strategies in several online services that I've used every day.
Yes, yes.
And I still do fall for few of them, I guess.
Yes.
But wait, how does TikTok stand out from the rest and drive so much engagement?
Right. So in the context of TikTok, the core drive it uses the most is the unpredictability core drive. It's front and center to the success of the app. And to do this, the scrolling feature known as the infinite scroll, as I mentioned earlier, and the For You page or Explore page curates personalized content for each user and targets a specific part of their brain which craves unpredictability. So unpredictable, as we all know, if you don't know what will happen,
Right.
your brain is engaged, you think about it more often, and then of course you'll be tempted to keep going back to it. That's how the strategy works. And now the infinite scroll in this regard actually keeps users in a deadlock of unpredictability, because the algorithm is always ready to dish out new media content and it never runs out. It can be
That's
refreshed.
so true.
Yes, infinite number of times. And psychologists have actually compared the dopamine rush that comes about as a result of this scrolling as similar to what gamblers experience while using a casino slot machine, because there's always a new content to be found and you never know, and you might always think that something better is going to come your way soon. Even if the last 3 have been not
That's
so
right.
funny, you know that the next reel will be funnier.
I feel we're all victims to this in some way or the other.
Of course. And much like gambling, it physically alters the brain structure because it makes people susceptible to their addiction, and which this also causes depression and anxiety. And this is it's a very adverse psychological impact, and it cannot be overlooked. And I think,
Very true.
yeah, it translates in a lot of other ways as well, not just scrolling, because phone dependency, for example, it's driven by very high social media usage. So sometimes even if our phone isn't vibrating, we might think it is, or our hand might like gravitate towards our pockets even though our phone isn't in our pocket. I think we've all experienced
Of
this.
course.
And there's a professor named Daniel Kruger who's an expert in human behavior.
Right.
And he's actually said that social media messages, the notifications, activate the same brain mechanism as cocaine does. And this is just one of the ways that our minds are a physiological product of our brain.
Addiction.
Addiction, complete addiction. And this is I think another thing that also separates TikTok from other video sharing sites like YouTube and Vimeo.
Right.
Like these were the ones in the early 2000s. But TikTok specifically actually proliferates short form content more than any other kind of content, because the highest viewed TikTok videos are usually between 21 and 34 seconds. And in
Right.
fact, TikTok even says in their recommendations that if you want to get popular on TikTok, keep your videos within this range for the highest number of views.
Okay, I haven't come across that. But
Yes.
okay,
I
very
think,
interesting.
yes. So I think in a way, this sort of like subconsciously signals to users that they need not carve out a lot of time or significant chunk of their day to actually use the app or drive or make them laugh, right? But however, it is this flawed thought process that oddly enough increases engagement and time spent on scrolling. For example, I think an anecdotal experience I've had personally is when I see auto drivers keep their phones on the stand.
Oh, right.
And at traffic lights, there's not that much time to waste, but you also know that that's the time you get free
Oh, right.
to do other things. So
That's-
TikTok videos are
That's a great
perfect
observation. I mean,
for that.
I have definitely experienced all of these tendencies
Yeah.
firsthand myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's become it's just become so normalized among people in this generation that, children and adults alike.
Yeah.
And that's very concerning, Rohan. We all know addiction of any kind negatively impacts mental health, but is there any evidence to show that TikTok has led to a spike in mental health diagnosis in any way?
Yes, most definitely. So it's far from being merely speculative. I think TikTok's infinite scroll and its For You page has actually been demonstrated to encourage suicidal tendencies in its users. This was actually a part of a research conducted by Amnesty International that was
Okay.
titled Driven into the Darkness.
Interesting.
And this was done in partnership with the Algorithmic Transparency Institute and AI Forensics. And in this study, they used automated accounts that mimicked like 13-year-olds users in Kenya, the Philippines, the USA. So it's across countries. It's not a country-specific issue. And they found that after using the platform for about 5 to 6 hours, almost 1 out of every 2 videos were mental health related and potentially harmful, because between 3 and 20 minutes into the research, more than half the videos in the For You page were related to mental health struggles, with multiple recommended videos in a single hour. And a lot of these, unfortunately, romanticized, normalized, and even encouraged suicide. And we all know that underage users can
Of
be
course.
very easily influenced by videos like
Of course,
these.
it's just the age.
It's just the age.
And they have multiple hormones rushing.
Yes, exactly. Most definitely. And this also causes a very rabbit hole effect, because
That's very true.
when you watch 1 or 2 of these, it recommends five more, 6 more. So that's the vicious cycle that TikTok entails. So of course you might argue, okay, the app's personalized feed was not intended for these negative outcomes. Maybe they just wanted to improve user experience. Maybe they wanted to show people things they're interested in and cater to their interests. However, this takes a very dark turn when the user has unhealthy thoughts, and we can't control the thoughts of a user, right? So
Wait.
these thoughts may be conscious or subconscious, and it's very dangerous when going down the wrong path.
Wait, right. So if I may play devil's advocate for a moment, though, do you think that a lot of these biases may come from the older generation who didn't actually grow up with the TikTok and are here, hence averse to it as much as any generation whenever newer forms of technology are introduced? I mean, could there be any overreaction in play here? What do you think about it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it wouldn't be a productive discussion unless we actually considered the issue from every angle.
Right.
So, of course, I agree with you. There are critics to this very dystopian view that we've presented so far. And one example in this regard is the board-certified psychiatrist named Dr. Sasha Hamdani, who I came across.
I've come across her
You have
articles as well, right?
Okay, yes. She uses TikTok regularly to educate her followers on mental health. And she believes that TikTok actually enables short form content to reach a larger audience, because, as she says, younger people don't want to read articles or watch full documentaries. They have very small attention spans. So these bite-sized pieces of information that TikTok propagates can actually be used in a way to disperse information, important and accurate information about mental health disorders, to actually inform people. And what she believes is that TikTok helps her interact with people who may not have had access to a physician earlier because of, say, financial issues. Maybe they live in a different country, so they wanted to change their behavior, and this was a platform that became valuable to them. And she actually said that she helped a lot of people recognize signs of ADHD in their children through the use of TikTok. So that's one way in
So
which
you're saying
TikTok
there are
can be.
pros as well?
There are definitely pros, and in TikTok's defense as well, they have rolled out several safety features over the year which actually are aimed at protecting its underage users and reducing screen time on the app. So one example of this is family pairing, which they introduced recently, and this allows a parent to link their TikTok account to their teen's account and set many controls, including, say, screen time management, which means they can control how long the teen spends and they can block it whenever they deem necessary. They can put it in restricted mode, which limits the appearance of certain kinds of content that may not be appropriate for all audiences, such as
Right.
children, of course, and even more importantly, direct messages. So the parents can view and restrict who can send messages to their child. And this is quite important in the cases of where TikTok challenges are concerned, because they may be peer
Right.
pressure into doing certain
That's
challenges by users whom they've no contact with previously. However,
Again, but my question is,
Yeah.
how far has this worked for the family pairing thing? So
yes, I know. I think it's a lot of talk, and effectiveness has not
Yeah.
shown very successful, unfortunately, because teens are smart. They can bypass these controls very
Yeah,
easily. They can create
sure.
new accounts without
Fake
restrictions,
accounts,
fake
multiple accounts.
Yes, that parents are fully unaware of.
Right.
And forget, even if we don't talk about family pairing specifically, TikTok also issues an alert to all its users under the age of 18, regardless if the app has been used for 60 minutes.
Okay.
However, this is less of a alert and more of a suggestion, because it's just a prompt that pops up in your face which says, hey, you've been using the app for 60 minutes, would you like a break? They can say no. It's really
course.
not effective in the long run. Sure, sometimes they say a passcode will have to be entered every 30 minutes to give the kid additional screen time. However, the users aged 13 to 17 can easily enter their own passcode and continue
Of
to use the
course.
app.
Come.
So I'm not sure about the efficacy of these safety measures.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yes, these safety measures might be well intentioned, but I don't think their resistance is enough to actually prevent or reduce the effects of the addiction. It has sown into TikTok's underage users. I mean, what do you think? Should it be banned? Is my question.
Yeah,
to
this is a
Harshite.
it's a very complicated question, because at the end of the day, we have to understand that TikTok is a voluntary service and
Right.
users can opt out of it at their own convenience. So it must be pondered over whether it is TikTok who has to take legal responsibility for the repercussions, because
Right.
repercussions are sometimes out of their control. But I think in this case, a lot of it is within their control. And I think the repercussions in this case specifically are quite important and must be debated on a larger stage, because it involves underage users. I think it also, in the sense of underage users, when their brain chemistry is altered at a very impressionable age, sometimes the effects can't be reversed, even
That's
if safety
very
measures
true.
are implemented
Very
later in
true.
life.
It does actually leave, a great impact
Yes.
on the overall growth of their mental health,
Yeah.
and that's something actually very concerning.
Yes. And I also think that it can't be compared to other addictions, say like cigarettes or alcohol, because in the case of these addictions, you can just completely quit
Yeah,
and
I
continue
see,
with your
and
life.
we see teens getting so
Yes.
restless when they don't have their phones or it's
Yes.
taken away by their parents, and
Yes.
you see it. You see the
You do
addiction to
see
it.
it completely. And with cigarettes and alcohol especially, it's easy to it's not easy, but it's possible to completely quit using them. But in the case of TikTok, this is a form of social interaction for teenagers.
Right.
They don't have other platforms, especially if you talk about the COVID pandemic. They had no other outlets to talk to their friends. And I think it's growing and increasing a problem in the
It's like the teen trending thing that they say, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Exactly. It might be easy to say, just don't use TikTok, but that's not
Oh, no.
realistic, and it's not going to happen. So I think safety measures and holding TikTok accountable is definitely the way forward. However, we don't know the future, and should this app continue to have a presence within the sovereignty of the United States, or perhaps meet the same fate as India, it's up to the courts now, and it remains to be witnessed.
Right. So that's it was a great discussion, and I absolutely really relate to it firsthand. So thank you for having this great chat with me, and I think all of our listeners should stay tuned for more episodes on all things policy, while we continue to explore some critical and ongoing issues that shape our world and have a great impact on it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Maria.
Thank you.
If you liked our show, dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs. Check us out at our Twitter handle @TakshashilaINST or our website takshashila.org.in.